Shout out to Pride of Detroit, man. I love it. They've been doing this for a long time. I think they part of SB Nation. I'm not sure if they have any connection to them, but they've been doing a lot for a long time. And it makes what I do a bit easier when they do the work for you. So shout out to those guys. I will link the article that I'm going to be referencing in the description of this video so you guys can see the whole thing. But I thought that this was worth the video because I do a lot of math, and you guys know I was talking about playoffs when we were 1-6. And that's just because I need to stay in the season. I can't be talking extensive draft. I can't be talking all this other stuff because the season goes by so fast. We'll all be a year older this time next year. So good or bad, I like to stay in the season because the Lions off season is their season. So I like to stay in the season. But I saw something from Pride of Detroit today. Like I said, not a ton of news coming out, seeing as how it's essentially Thursday. And like Wednesday, Thursday is a very slow news day because this is the day that Coach Campbell does not get in front of the media. So because we have a game on Saturday, then everybody's bumped up a day. So we probably saw Dan Campbell for the last time yesterday, potentially. But this is coming from Pride of Detroit, and I do a lot of math, but as far as when it comes to analytical data. But I haven't done this much math. And according to Pride of Detroit, this article is from Jeremy Reisman from 7 a.m. this morning. Okay? How Detroit Lions can clinch a playoff spot before playing the Packers in Week 18. Somebody brought up Aaron Rodgers, and we'll talk about him. We might as well end this segment. Aaron Rodgers. You guys might have heard fear in my voice the other day. It's not fear of Aaron Rodgers. It's not fear of the Green Bay Packers. It is fear of the refs at Lambeau Field. We have seen hands to the face. We have seen phantom. I don't want to deal with that. I'd much rather the Packers be done. I want them to be done. But there is a way that the Detroit Lions can clinch a playoff spot. But Aaron Rodgers, when interviewed by Lisa Salters after Monday night, he had to correct her. She asked him, blah, 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 you get the win, and the next three teams, your last three teams, are over 500. So she misspoke. It happens. She's human. It's cold. She misspoke. And the Vikings are over 500. The Dolphins are over 500, who they play this weekend. And the Lions are 7-7. And this dude says, well, one of them is 7-7, meaning 50%, meaning 500. And the smirk on his face was, it was like he had to single us out, right? The smirk on Aaron Rodgers' face is like saying, I hope that we are 8-8 when we play each other, because we all know what can happen in Lambeau Field, right? But the Detroit Lions might go to Lambeau and not even have to worry about Big Head Mars attacks. According to Pride of Detroit, the Week 18 game against the Packers in Lambeau Field could mean nothing to the Detroit Lions as they clinch a playoff spot with these very realistic outcomes in the next 2 weeks. So if you are following me, the Detroit Lions can go into Lambeau with a spot secure. Seating could change, but they could have a spot secure. I'm just going to cut straight to the chase of how that could happen. Again, I'll link the article in the description. The bottom line is this. This coming week, Week 16, we need. So the routing schedule that I put up, so you can pause the video or go back. In Week 16, we need the Chiefs to beat the Seahawks, which we expect. We need the Niners to beat the Commanders, which we also expect. We need the Dolphins to either beat or tie the Packers, which most of us expect. And last, and certainly not least, we need to handle our business. Okay? So pretty much everything I've been saying for the past couple of days. Chiefs beat the Seahawks, Niners beat the Commanders, Dolphins beat or tie the Packers, and the Lions beat the Panthers. Now, into week 17, if all of that stuff happens in week 16, the Detroit Lions will be in the 7th seed heading into week 17. Unbelievable. From 1-6 to 7-8. And in the playoffs, 8-7 in the playoffs with 2 weeks left in the season. Now, week 17, for us, according to Pride of Detroit, to clinch a playoff spot before we face the Green Bay Packers, this needs to happen. The Jets need to beat the Seahawks. The Browns need to beat the Commanders. And the Vikings need to beat or tie the Green Bay Packers. And, of course, the Lions need to win. If those things happen, the Detroit Lions could have a spot secure. They would clinch a spot in the playoffs. My guess, based on that, because it doesn't break it down per se in this, where they would be spotted, but I'm assuming they would be at the 6th spot heading into Lambeau with the potential to hold on to the 6th with the win, drop down to the 7th with a loss. So again, the Detroit Lions can get in the playoffs with a win and a Commanders loss this weekend. They can clinch if in week 16, the Chiefs beat the Seahawks, the Dolphins beat or tie the Packers, and in week 17, the Jets beat the Seahawks, the Browns beat the Commanders. The Green Bay Packers, that's the team that kind of has me on edge. And again, it has nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers and his team. It has everything to do with being at Lambeau Field with something on the line. And as we discussed yesterday, the NFL will flex for the last game of the season. It will be the game with the most on the line. There's a lot of stuff setting up this weekend. A lot of stuff. They're going to be, my guess is 3 or 4 spots open and are going to be decided by the last game. So the question I have for you, do you think the Detroit Lions can secure a playoff spot in week 17 before they even go to Lambeau? I think it's very possible because week 16, I see week 16 going exactly like that. The Chiefs should beat the Seahawks with no problem. The Niners should beat the Commanders, but the Niners beat the Eagles. But week 17 is a little more shaky. The Jets are playing for their playoff lives, but they'll be coming from a 9-day break because they play tomorrow night. The Browns, Commanders, and they're in Washington. Those are the 2 games that I'm worried about. I could see them going either way. I'm supremely confident about the week 16 games. Wouldn't that be something if the Detroit Lions could clinch a playoff spot before the season is even over after the 1-6 start? That would be history.